Moment of Madness, written and read by Malcolm Cowper. He closed the door for the last time that day. The heavy metallic crash jarred my already shredded nerves and reinforced my sense of utter helplessness. Now I was totally alone till the next morning. A minute earlier the officer had entered the cell carrying a tray. I had looked pleadingly at him, hoping to see some vestige of kindness in his eyes, but he simply glared at me and said, "Supper, lights out in half an hour." "What time is it?" I asked. My watch had been confiscated along with my phone and wallet. 8:30, he said. 8:30? I repeated in astonishment. "Lights go out at 9? You're a mathematical genius," was his sarcastic response. It was daylight outside and would still be at 9. No curtains to darken the room. The cell contained a bed, a table and chair, a wash basin and a toilet. At least I wasn't in a Victorian jail with a chamber pot to be slopped out. Nor did it have stone walls and a window set so high that it was impossible to see out of. The walls of this cell were painted pastel blue, but were badly in need of freshening up, especially to cover the gaps in the plaster which had been left when a previous occupant had ripped down his sellotaped posters. The window was barred, but the outside world was visible, which actually made me even more miserable. Beyond the high wall, the normal world carried on as usual, indifferent to my plight. I could see cars on the road, sheep in the fields, a tractor ploughing arrow-straight lines along the furrow. Even through the closed window, I could hear the joyful singing of birds. A strong, unwashed body odour indicated that the previous occupant had not showered recently, nor had the stale smell of cigarette smoke entirely dissipated. I went to the table and viewed my supper, 2 digestive biscuits and a carton of Ribena. I had eaten little that day, but was still not hungry. However, feeling I should eat, I picked up one of the biscuits and bit into it. It tasted of cardboard, and no matter how much I chewed it, not a trace of flavour could I discern. I went across to the bed, on which lay 2 blankets, 2 sheets and a pillowcase. "No duvets left, I'm afraid," said the officer who had brought the bedding. The blankets felt rough and gave off a musty smell. I made up the bed, then undressed. In the absence of pyjamas, I kept my underwear on. Before getting into bed, I went across to the toilet for a last pee. My predecessor's careless aim was evident from the whiff of urine around the pedestal. I longed for a book to read. I knew it was very unlikely I would sleep that night. Hour after hour lay ahead of me, endless time to agonize over the moment of madness that led to my imprisonment. 2 nights earlier, I had been driving along the M4, having spent the evening with 4 old university friends. As usual, we had quickly settled into the same old banter, and a jolly time was had by all. As I drove home, I was conscious that I had drunk a little more than I should have. I was also finding night driving more difficult because of cataracts that had been detected in my eyes, too early for surgery, but enough to reduce my vision. This was why I failed to notice my exit sign until I was almost past it. In a panic, I foolishly made a sharp left turn over the cross-hatching onto the exit slip. As I did so, I heard a furious horn blast from behind as I cut across another car, followed by a sickening crunch of metal striking metal. I bounced to the right, and the car went momentarily out of control, swerving left, then right, before straightening out. Through my mirror, I could see that the other car had come to a halt. At that point, I should have stopped, got out, and gone to see if anyone was hurt. But I didn't, because in that split second, 3 thoughts flashed through my mind. First, I would not pass a breath test. Secondly, a medical test would reveal my eyesight deficiency and my insurance would be invalidated. Third, I could face prosecution for dangerous driving. I put my foot down and sped away at top speed. Early the next morning, my doorbell rang. 2 police officers stood outside. They wished to question me about an incident at a motorway junction. There was no point in denying it. The large dent in the front wing, bordered by a smudge of red paint, was evidence enough of my guilt. I was astonished that they had traced me so quickly. They said that my registration had been picked up on the other driver's dash cam. The following Monday, I appeared before the district judge, who informed me that I would be prosecuted not only for dangerous driving, but for leaving the scene of an accident. I was refused bail on the grounds that I might be tempted to drive again, and remanded in custody until my trial came up. For the next 4 months, I remained locked in this cell for 23 hours every day. Once a week I was allowed out to take a shower. Only during exercise hour was I able to breathe fresh air, although because of the proximity of a brewery, it was often tainted by the sour odour of mashed hops. The exercise yard was surrounded on 3 sides by a formidable 20-foot-high wall, the 4th side being the main building, a soulless 4-story monolith with geometric rows of barred windows. Night-time was the worst. Rather than sinking into silence, the air was filled with shouts, raucous music, obscenities, and the continuous banging of metal objects. Most of the inmates were by then high on various illegally imported substances, and the officers made no attempt to quieten them. It was usually 3 a.m. before the noise finally died down. I only saw other prisoners when showering or on exercise. They did not seem at all nasty or threatening. Rather, they looked downtrodden, as if life had defeated them. When released, they would probably be back within months, or, sadly, in some cases, dead after an overdose of drugs they so craved. Finally, I was brought to court. The judge lambasted me for my callousness in leaving the scene of the accident, showing no concern about any injuries I might have inflicted on the other party, and it was only my good fortune that the driver was unhurt. He sentenced me to 2 years' imprisonment, but suspended in view of the fact that I had no previous convictions and by making an immediate confession had not wasted the police or the court's time. He also disqualified me from driving for 5 years. I left the court feeling unfeignedly thankful that I was not going back into prison. 1 more day would have been beyond endurance, never mind 2 years. But my relief was tempered by remorse at my callous, cowardly action in fleeing the scene of the accident. For the rest of my life, guilt and shame would haunt both my daytime hours and my dreams.